Incoming next is Kumaran Nadesan, another great leader and champion of Tamils in public service. Kumaran Nadesan is the co-founder and deputy chairman of 369 Global, a Canada-headquartered group of companies with business interests in skills training and workforce development, media and communications, and global market facilitation. Previously, he was a longtime Ontario public servant where his innovation and value-based leadership garnered him several provincial and federal government awards. Kumaran has also been an active community animator with many years and has co-founded several organizations aimed at building long-term collective capacity of the Canadian Tamil diaspora, including Tamils in Public Service, which he founded in 2016. For his active community contributions, Kumaran has been named a 2018 Diverse City Fellow by the Civic Action Leadership Foundation and the 2020 Established Professional of the Year by Canadian Tamil Professional Association. Over to you, Kumaran.
Thank you, Janani. கால் தோன்றி மண் தோன்றா காலத்தே முன் தோன்றிய மூத்த மொழி தமிழுக்கும் வீரம் நிறைந்த தமிழிலும் மண்ணுக்கும் எனது முதற்கண் வணக்கத்தை தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டு 369 குளோபல் நிறுவனம் மற்றும் எனது நண்பர் முரளி ஸ்ரீநாராயணன் சார்பில் அனைவருக்கும் எனது இனிய தாய்ப்பொங்கல் மற்றும் தமிழ் மரபுத்திங்கள் வாழ்த்துக்களை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறேன். I've been asked, friends, to speak today about the origin story of TiPS, and I think that's a very important point to bring to this discussion because it is very critical that we reflect on where we begin so that we can understand where we need to go. And as Secretary D. Emmanuel said, we are coming up to 10 years. So it's a good time to reflect on how it all began and how we set up for that 10th year milestone. In some ways, the idea of Tamils in public service was inevitable. In 2009, in the wake of the Tamil genocide in Sri Lanka, it really highlighted, I think, the political disenfranchisement of the Canadian Tamil community. We think we had leverage and power and access, and I think in many ways we were proven wrong. And sitting in the Ontario Public Service, I was very concerned about how we are not truly organizing the public sector, while all of our colleagues are organizing other spaces. So that was a factor. Another factor that brought TiPS forward is, and it's sometimes we miss this because we're all sitting here as second generation children of factory workers, restaurant workers, and food service workers and other precarious jobs that our parents have had in Canada. But we also, many of us may not know that we have a rich history of public service, whether that is in the Ceylon civil service, or in British Malaya and Singapore civil service. Tamils have had a long and storied history of working in public policy, in foreign affairs, in public service, and we built institutions in many countries around the world. So TiPS is a continuation of that heritage, which I think is very important to highlight. The other reason I think is we also did not have the likes of Deputies Richardson and Kulendran, who I think are truly walking the talk on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the OPS. We had certainly champions at the time, but I've been very grateful watching Deputies Richardson and Kulendran from at least the vantage point of LinkedIn, and to know the kind of strength and leadership that they brought to very important conversations that are happening, and which as I understand, Secretary D. Emmanuel has been a champion of as well. And finally, I think there was this false dichotomy, I think, between the political and administrative interface of government. We had a few of us in the bureaucracy who would simply not even engage, fellow Tamils in the political offices. And obviously within the context of the Ontario Public Service, that makes sense. But what I think, as we think about creating an organization that bridges both community activism and public policy and public service, that false dichotomy needed to be broken. And I think one of the biggest things, or the biggest successes, when I founded TiPS in 2016, was having the likes of Pranaman Thiru, who was in the Ministry of Finance, and Cash Thiru, who was in the political office, join us along with a lot of other people, including my friend Roshani Vignaraja, to create the TiPS network. Why I'm taking the time to speak about that history is to really kind of lead into what I hope, what I want to share is my hope for the future of TiPS. I think, it is not enough that we rest on our laurels. I think there is an incredible momentum that TiPS has established in the community for 8 years. And my sincere hope is that we do more. And what do I mean by that? And these are just meant to be my suggestions, because the grace in my hair has given me the right to provide unsolicited advice. No one listens to it at home, so I take the opportunity to provide it in these kinds of meetings. So one is we need to be more actively, mobilize, I think, within the public service. There is I think, an over-reliance on provincial government representation in TiPS, and I think we need to do much more work in terms of municipal and the federal orders of government. And I think, one of the key things that we began TiPS work is how do we go about leveraging the skills and knowledge we have in understanding how political decisions are made, in understanding how the machinery of government works, and how do we bring that knowledge to our community and build long-term public policy and political capacity in the Tamil Canadian diaspora. So I think there's a little bit more work, and this is why I think the Tips with TiPS with the workshops I thought was very, very good, and we did get out the vote campaigns, and I'm really hoping we can do more and more of this active community engagement and build that capacity. Why? Because we simply need more people in leadership. We need more deputy claimants. We need more ADMs, Baratnams. We need more CIO MLEs in the OPS and beyond, or Deputy Tangaraj in the federal government. So these are my hopes and aspirations, and certainly ambitions for TiPS. And for those of you listening in on the call who have either come to an event or has engaged in some way, this is an incredibly powerful network. I sometimes think, I truly did not appreciate it until I stepped away from the public service, and I'm very privileged to do the work that I do in the private sector. But in hindsight, I think I didn't really understand the power and impact and influence that an organization like TiPS has and can continue to have. So for those of you listening on the call today and who haven't really joined TiPS, this I hope can serve as a clarion call for you to bring your incredible energy, your incredible talent and skills to this wonderful, wonderful network that is the Tamils in public service. And I wish this particular committee all the great successes that I know TiPS will have as we celebrate our 10th year anniversary, not virtually, hopefully, but in a big way in person in 2026. Thank you so much, Nandri, Vanaka, Nigwich.